When I was 21, I got invited to an event out here. I got one Saturday off a month, and it was that Saturday. And I was just kind of like, oh, like I'll go. And I brought my friend with me, and it changed my entire life. We do want to talk about OnlyFans.
I have all types of feelings about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were saying there's a happy medium.
I would have never done it, as odd as it sounds, if I didn't have the blessing of my dad. I think if we do want to talk about OnlyFans, I think that's an interesting...
Let's talk about it.
We talked about it briefly off camera, and you were saying like there's
I have all types of feelings about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were saying there's a happy medium, and want to kind of discuss that of how you feel about it and the happy medium and what you...
Well, I think I've also mentioned this before, but I would have never done it, as odd as it sounds, if I didn't have the blessing of my dad. My dad's very young. My parents had me very young. So my dad's only 45.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 26.
Yeah.
He very much understands the internet. He's very intelligent. And he also happens to be my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And on OnlyFans, I don't do any nudity. So it's very, sexy content that, people are definitely getting something that I wouldn't post on just my regular socials. But he was like, if you're okay with who you are, we know you, we're okay with who you are. He's like, why would you pass up this opportunity of setting yourself up for your whole entire life?
Yeah, it's true.
Like, what does it really matter what people think of the stigma of this? It's, you're not doing porn, which I don't judge people who do. That's your prerogative. I personally would never do that. But I think that you can still be a person who wants a family, a good girl, a person that has a relationship with God and still, make sexy content.
Let's be honest, this platform is actually empowering creators directly, right?
Yeah, and creating financial...
So regardless of how people feel about the content that's
Mm-hmm.
being, but Bad Baby was all over the fucking internet for being Cash Me Outside and being on Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil made money off of that.
Mm-hmm.
He might have said he didn't like her, but that shit was huge.
She's a genius.
Right? And so for her to make as much the type of numbers they threw around from OnlyFans is like you said, life-changing for her and everybody else around her.
Absolutely.
And nobody else was going to monetize her like that.
Nope.
I mean, if they thought she was marketable in that way, they would have put money behind it, but they want to eat off of that too. So having a direct path to okay, I'm going to do this, but this is for me because this is directly going to come into my hands and the platform creator, obviously, right? That's kind of how it works, right? It's there ain't no intermediary
there's percentages that are given, to the platform and stuff like that.
Of course,
but
but that's their platform.
Yeah, it's direct,
that's a direct
to the creator. Yeah, it's direct to the creator, and I think it's kind of like...
That's a game changer.
Yeah.
And Instagram ain't breaking bread.
No. And since the beginning, nothing's built around the creator actually monetizing well.
What you're putting
other
out
than
work,
that.
We build these platforms for these people regardless of, it's the opportunity or whatever else it is. But it's like, really, is it? Because without the content, what are you doing? YouTube is nothing without us putting videos on it.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like the career that I had. It's like I had all of this, and at the end of the day, my image has always been a large part of the way that I look.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, just this opportunity in front of me. I said no for a really long time. I didn't do it. I was like the last in my friend group to do it because I was so nervous about it. And then I just really sat with it. I thought about it, and it was the best decision I've ever made in my entire life because it doesn't, at the end of the day, sex sells. Look where we are. We're in Hollywood. Think about Marilyn Monroe. I mean, she was one of the sexiest women in history. I mean, and she even did some nude artistic photos, and you don't look back and think of her. She's a respected, she was an icon, and I'm not saying by any means I'm an icon, but I think being sexy and being feminine, I don't find anything to be wrong with that, as long as you're centered and you have a good head on your shoulders. And I'm not going to do OnlyFans forever. I'm not going to, be 45 doing OnlyFans. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but me and my personal journey, I would like to have a family. I would like to have a normal life. And I think at the end of the day, one day, I'll have that conversation with my kids once they're old enough to, who knows what the world's going to be like, because kind of going to shit, but I'm praying for the future. But, at that time, and if they have some questions or, I'll answer it. And, mommy had a time where I did burlesque type sex. It's kind of like, that's life. I'm not going to let it, I'm proud of kind of what I've built and that I had the bravery to do that. And it's just crazy what I've been able to do for my family and just provide more security is really what keeps me pushing.
Yeah.
Financially, it changed everybody's life
Yeah.
around your family.
They say don't have more followers than money, right? And we know that for a lot of the people online, that's probably the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they're not capitalizing or monetizing this attention.
Unless you're a very, very big creator, like 20 million, 30 million, 10 million, you're not, or you have big campaigns, like you're just kind of in that crowd of
or brands, or you're doing a prime like Logan Paul, or you can pop other things that can be monetized in a big way.
Like I'm sure
there's not too many Noah Becks. Not everybody's gonna go be high fashion off of doing Instagram, right?
Yeah, and he's been great at bridging the gap. I remember
I did a podcast with him and Josh Richards when they were doing a little podcast because a friend of mine was I think he did a content house with them or was managing them or something. But sweet kid, super cool. I'm a big fan.
All very sweet. Yeah. They're truly all very sweet. Whenever I
spent like a breath of fresh air to see too, because I love like his post and just being honest and himself, and that's dope.
I have to say, Noah is one of the nicest. He's so nice, like genuinely a nice person. I don't know him extremely well, but I spent a lot of time with like the Sway boys.
Yeah,
and we hung out whenever I was in my content house. They had theirs, and it was kind of at the same time. Mm-hmm. And they're all great. All of them are great.
Do you know Mike Groen?
Who?
Michael Groen, the guy.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know homeboy. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they're all really, really great guys, to be honest. But Noah's like super, super nice. I'm sure they'd all agree that he's probably the nicest.
Yeah, he was like, when we were doing the podcast, he was so soft spoken that it was like, because he's just naturally sweet, just a good person. It was cool though.
Mm-hmm. I remember when we had just kind of started the clubhouse, the content house, and me and Daisy like found him when he was first starting he had like under 100K followers on TikTok, like not anything. And we were like, oh my gosh, this kid's gonna be huge. Like he looks great, he's super nice, his content's fun, and obviously the Sway boys got him because they found him too. So I've even seen since the beginning and never heard a bad thing about him ever.
Yeah.
So there's, not every influencer is like a total, just like gets lost and they turn into a total asshole. There's people that understand reality and are like, hey, I'm gonna be super grateful and I'm not gonna lose myself. But it's a challenge.
It is. Yeah. Overall, what are your feelings on this social space?
How do you mean?
Just in general, like what is your overall feeling? Like obviously it's been a big blessing in your life. Obviously that it does some good with some bad.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Is it still kind of a trip to you that like you can build a following and a career off of doing content creation on social?
Yeah. My life is a trip, to be honest. And I like, I don't know what else to say.
Make this shit up.
It's just, when the younger me, that if she only knew, I mean, wow, I just could have never, ever imagined this life. And, I believe that it was meant for me and meant for me to go through. And I'm so grateful. But as far as I think a portion of my career, I definitely got sad because I kind of felt a mixture of why me? And also, am I contributing to what's wrong with the world? I definitely struggled with that.
Yeah. How was that? when did this realization come, and did like
In the beginning, in the first couple years, it definitely was that,
hit at, like, a point?
I mean, I'm looking at my little sisters, I'm seeing how innocent they are and how sweet they are. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I never want them to like view what I'm viewing and look at someone that their job is to wake up. They have all the resources to look perfect and take the perfect lighting with the perfect picture, and picturing them looking at that and comparing themselves to that like made me sick. So it was really a balance of just balancing everything, realizing why not you, and accepting that, doing it and feeling okay with it. Just the balance, I think, is what's hard to master. And I'll always be growing and learning, but the balance of it. I just think the social media can be such a good thing. It's a way for all of us to connect. I think it's a very good thing right now because of so much that's going on in our world right now. And I definitely feel like our media is controlled and, used for sinister reasons.
For
money reasons, control reasons.
Which comes back to money always anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, just
don't think they care.
Yeah,
the narrative changes on the drop of a dime as soon as our attention wanes.
I mean, kind of what's going on right now with music.
Like, so we're so powerful, and we don't know how powerful we are, because if we stop paying attention, that changes everything immediately, right?
Right.
If we decide tomorrow to just stop caring about this or worrying about this one or putting our focus somewhere else, we'll see how like quick things change.
Yeah, I think people are definitely starting to wake up to a lot of things. But like even going on with music right now, like Doja Cat, that just makes me sick. Like just all the stuff about like the devil and like the satanic stuff.
Does she actually talk about that in her music and stuff?
I'm
not like super familiar with it. I've seen some of the imagery, like obviously, but
like the demon thing with her. Ooh, it literally sends chills.
Was that taken out of context, or what was that?
What context could it be taken out of?
I mean, Halloween costume.
No. That wasn't Halloween. I think that was just her on a Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not super familiar, but I know the image you're talking about, though. It's creepy as fuck, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just.
There's a lot of it. We're being bombarded with it,
and it's like,
one point, it's like, where's the art in that?
There is none.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there is none, and I'm a very open-minded person, but
you seem like a good Christian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no,
from Louisiana.
Hey, you, and people think
not like super Bible thumping necessarily.
No. I'm not gonna sit here and judge. I believe that who am I to say, oh, this religion is the one religion that's the most valid and everything else goes out the window. I don't think that at all. I think whatever religion and culture or just spirituality you're raised in or not even raised in, whatever you connect with is valid.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're Buddhist. I don't care, if you're Jewish. If it feels right to you and that connects you and that brings you together in a place where we're connected to each other spiritually, to our higher power. For me, it's God. I think it's all correct and valid. But I think when you're just the devil stuff, I just can't do it. I don't understand it. Something weird is happening because I just don't understand. That's not cool. It's not cool. It's never going to be cool. You're putting it in the front of the, people's faces for them to consume, and these weird demonic songs to be stuck in their heads because they're singing it because it's all over TikTok and kids are dancing to it. And,
is it a play off attention, or is it like, or there's obviously some dark shit?
I mean, I think it's a mixture of a bunch of things. I think it's a mixture of just dark shit. I think there's a lot of dark shit happening in our world right now. And there's a lot of things behind the scenes that are very dark. I think, do I think that was all Doja Cat's idea? Who knows? I don't know her personally. I don't want to pass judgment on her or put her in a box. But I mean, I definitely don't respect what she's doing and what she's putting out. I used to really like her music. I thought she was super dope, super cool. She's completely ruined that.
The game seems like it corrupts people, huh?
Yeah, and I mean,
especially in music.
It's
Especially.
people maybe behind that are kind of getting her to do that, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm lost in it. This is super artistic," and who knows where her head's at. But whew, that's some dark shit.
What was the show with The Weeknd and Lily Rose Depp? Did you see it? The Celebrity?
I
Was that
did
what it's
watch
called?
it. It was
Yeah.
called The Idol.
Oh, The Idol. Yeah.
I
How'd you feel
watched
about
it.
that?
Um,
I thought it was well done, but it has some of those vibes of like this weird.
yeah.
It was a little dark.
I thought
It
it
was
was
dark.
really dark, really
Like, I
dark.
I fucked with it though because it was
But it was
kinda like-
accurate.
it was realistic.
It was accurate.
Yeah.
I have to say that. Being in
Like the
LA,
management,
the
and
things I've
things
seen.
behind and the parts of these. Like people don't really see all of the working pieces.
Yeah.
Thought it played like a pretty accurate, picture of it.
I agree. I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, I think that was his artistic expression of something that a story he wanted to tell. And I think it was acted very well. Do I think it was dark? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a lot of content that we like. One of my favorite directors is Quentin Tarantino. So
Oh, this stuff is.
I'm not afraid of a dark story or someone pushing the boundaries of
No. This is
film.
wild, but he does it in a fun manner.
Yeah, but I feel like with the Weeknd's show, I think, his character was very hated, and I think that's because he did a great job with it. It really was very accurate. The vibes of the show,
Yeah.
just the personalities of the people, I'm sure you felt the same way. Like,
Yeah.
it was just like, yeah. And, not it's obviously a story,
It's a story. Yeah.
but
You could
the
pick up
undertones
things
of
and see-
LA were spot on.
Yeah.
Because it's a dark place. It's a great place. There's a lot of opportunity. It's very beautiful. There's all different types of people, and there's great people, but there's also very
Tons of
dark
talent.
people
Yeah.
and people that do not care about you.
There's a lot of
at-
manipulation, obviously, in entertainment in general, right?
yeah. Well, it's very just
There's people creating, and then there's people that are eating off of the creation of other people as
Yeah.
well. And
Or-
whether they're orchestrating it or not,
right.
there's a lot of like pulling things this way and that way and kind of,
Yeah.
ulterior motives going on, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, what I realized was like I came here in the beginning from the South, and I'm not saying I love the South. I think it's a very warm place.
It is.
It's where I'm from. I definitely, as I've gotten older, I've realized how Southern I am, and I'm proud of that.
The accent's not thick though.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
And some people are like, "Oh yeah, I hear an accent." I'm like, "Where?" I don't.
It's like
It's
certain
fair.
things
Slight?
you pick up if
Yeah.
once, but you would have to have told me you were from Louisiana.
It's certain words. I
Yes,
think.
of course, yeah. But it's
Yeah.
not like I'm in Texas or like East Texas
Right.
or Louisiana where it gets heavy. That's a heavy accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But wait, what was I saying? I was saying that.
You're obviously from the South.
Oh, the way I interact, I came here kind of like, hey, y'all, and, people in the South, it's very, for the most part, everyone, you could be in a grocery store, you could talk to people, you could be like,
They're very
hey,
friendly, yeah.
very friendly. People, if they see you, they'll give the shirt off their back, most of them, and like genuinely help you out. Everybody's a good person, pretty much. Obviously, there's bad people. There's
course,
people with,
everywhere.
bad intentions, but
They
it's
do it
more
with a smile.
fewer. Yeah. But then here, it was like the opposite.
Yeah.
So that was hard for me to
The
acclimate
fake
to
friendly.
because I didn't understand. So
Yeah.
here, it's like you have to assume the opposite. You have to assume everyone's shitty until they give you a reason to be like, oh, you get to know them enough to be like, oh, they're actually not shitty. Or you have like interactions with them where you're like, oh, okay. But you have to kind of be more careful. And I find that I'm less open at first when I meet people in a social setting. A lot of times I'm very kind of conservative or like quiet because I'm just observing. I'm feeling everything. And I like to feel people's vibe before I open up to them. Because a lot of times, I was burned so much since I've been here.
So once you have a following, are people just latching on to you in certain situations or trying to be around to try to gain your following or try to, grow theirs off of being associated with you in that type of way? I'm sure you get like a lot of the fake friendly type of vibes from people.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm used to that now, but I don't really put myself in situations, I guess, as much. Out here, especially in the influencer entertainment world, it's kind of like a club, and you're either a part of that club or you're not a part of that club. If you or if you're a connected person, if you have followers, if you have clout, if you have fame in any way, you're automatically in. You're automatically a part of it. And so for the most of my experience here, I've been a part of it. So, you know, I've seen examples of people that are not, and their experience is much different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, of course, there's situations like that. I think
Have you ever had to let somebody down that wanted to create content with you or something, and it just wasn't your vibe, or and those type
I'm
of things?
sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess I just don't really put myself in those positions now. But, you know, back when I was really creating so much, definitely. But I'm pretty nice. I'm not really like, if a creator wasn't as big as me, I would still create with them if they were cool and if it was a cool idea. I don't really
Yeah.
think like that, but
She's normal.
a lot of people do.
Unlike that other chick I was telling you about.
I mean, in her defense, for whatever reason, like, I get that time is valuable, and that if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Like, I've stopped
Yeah.
doing other podcasts and things like, oh, you want to do this movie podcast and talk about Sandlot? I'm like, no, because I've talked about it for fucking 30 years, and there's like 9 of us, and you can talk to one of the other guys about it. You know what I mean? Because I just don't feel like this is like a good use of my time at the moment. Or maybe I'm on some other shit and I want to share something different. So I get it. Like, it has to make sense. Like, I respect people's time in that manner.
No, they said I wasn't big enough.
I get that though. Like, okay, well, if that's what she's after, is creating a following, then it's okay to be like, I don't think this is beneficial for my career. Look, bro, I come from entertainment. They're cut and dry, like ruthless with that shit. So this is like, if that shit don't make money, they're not showing up, bro. You ain't getting Leo to come look at that script.
Yeah, I
Not
think
in
I
Leo's-
think
you're
it's
not in
also
Leo's category, you know?
people's different like I said, like different parts of their journey. I think like
everybody's on different things.
something I've realized is like, you know, I was talking to one of my best friends, Tara, and she was telling me like, you need to say yes to everything. You need to be, if this is your career and you want to show more of who you are and have that opportunity, like, why would you say no? I mean, unless it's someone where I'm like, oh, they might be creepy or I might be unsafe or something, you know, like, why would I not? You know, I'm not gonna sit here and like go and like peel back the numbers and like look and be like, oh, is this worth it for me? It's kind of like, just be yourself, and y'all are cool, and you know, like, y'all have had success, and like, why not?
Yeah, no, I agree.
You know, so but I understand what you're saying, and I think it's
it's a
just
business. People-
right.
It is a business.
But I think, you
Understand.
know, that's at the end of the day, that's her loss.
In the same way, I don't want to talk about Sandlot. I'll go on anybody's weed podcast. I've done weed podcasts of all types of random people for whatever reason.
Big or
But
small, didn't matter.
it's representing the brand, right?
Yeah.
So I'm down to do content for that. In a sense of like, do I want to go talk about film, a career that has passed me over and over and over again when I've done it a million times? No, because I'm not. That's not what I'm focused on, or that in that space at that moment, you know. But I understand where you're coming from too.
Yeah, no,
I'm cool with
totally.
talking with people. I don't care who it is, and if it makes sense for them, that's fine. And I like to be part of people's journeys as well, because you never know. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, there's tons
absolutely.
of people that did Joe Rogan's show and didn't know Joe Rogan was going to be Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
didn't know he was going to be Joe Rogan, the podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
He was Joe Rogan, the announcer on UFC, which wasn't a big deal at the time. Or he was Fear Factor Joe Rogan. Or Dave Chappelle Joe Rogan because he was on the show or whatever, you know what I mean? But, you know, they was coming like all types of randoms were on the show. He was like, fuck, we're talking to anybody that would sit down with us for like 4
Right.
hours. It's like, Space Cowboys, sure. Fucking witches over here, yeah, let's do it. Like,
I love
everyone said.
his show. I've never really watched it full from front to back.
Yeah.
But I like to watch clips of it, and I love like the topics. I love talking about just crazy off the wall
Cool.
shit.
He's very conversational, and he's obviously a well-spoken, intelligent guy that does his research on stuff and wants to talk about next level shit. So, yeah, it's dope. I think it's good. I seen a poll recently, though, actually, that it's a big red flag for dating, I guess. Both male and female. That was one of the
What?
biggest red flags, was listening to Joe Rogan consistently was like a red
Oh,
flag for
really?
females for dating a man.
Really?
Yeah.
It's kind of
Huh.
weird.
Huh?
Doesn't really make
It
sense.
came
I
up a
feel
lot.
like a lot of people listen
60%
to
of women
podcasts.
thought that was a red flag. And then there was like a 35% of men thought it was a red flag if a woman listens to Joe Rogan.
I wonder why.
It's interesting, huh?
It's, I mean, like I said, I haven't listened all the way through, but why would that mean
I
anything
feel like
bad?
it's like a little like he's a little right, and he's a little like pushing the envelope on like aggressive. Well, let's just have the fucking debate then, right? And I think it makes people nervous.
You
right?
mean right as in not left?
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean I think a lot of people.
And I don't think he started out as somebody.
I don't think he was either direction.
I mean, he's in Hollywood. He was liberal for sure.
Yeah.
Into it, like Bill Maher, or any of these guys that have like kind of like found themselves in a weird space where they don't know where to be anymore because they're kind of like, oh shit, this is what we signed up for, right?
Yeah.
Or it went somewhere where it's not even about politics anymore. It's about like, oh shit, this is some weird shit now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to when everybody has their own beliefs, and I think it's important for somebody that, let's say, because I didn't know that, let's say he is more to the right. It's kind of like, why shouldn't he be able to express that or talk about his beliefs? Because there's a lot of people in this country that are.
Yeah.
And, I think that also comes with so many good values. And I mean, like, that's something I've never said where I stand, because, it's you nowadays, if you say something wrong or you believe you don't believe in something that the media is telling you to believe, you're a bigot or you're wrong.
Yeah.
So it's
a very
kind of
unsafe
like
space, especially with the platform, obviously, because I don't know if he is right. I'm just saying that I think he's
that's what offended people, or that's why people felt that way.
Capable of giving anybody a platform. And you know how that goes at this point. If you give either side a platform, you're choosing side.
Oh yeah, because he did kind of have that crazy guy on there, which, who knows, maybe some of what he says is correct. I can't remember his name. Jones?
Oh, Alex Jones.
Yeah.
He's had Alex Jones on a bunch.
Yeah,
kind of like,
is he like the type of person you're talking about, or are you talking about more
I think
like
Joe's just kind of given up. I mean, he moved to Austin. He's kind of set his like feet in the sand about like, okay, this shit has gotten weird, and they're trying to kind of control the narrative on a lot of things, and they're trying to tell me who and what I can see and talk to,
right? Which is weird.
Obviously, like, why, right? Why do you? I mean, I'm sure there's things that he hasn't even spoke of at his platform now, with as many people that listen to it and how big it is. I'm sure there's conversations that have been had behind closed doors. We normally don't go into anything like this, but this is cool. But
and hey, if you always want to cut it out for your own, you always can. But
yeah, I mean,
I think it's important.
I don't care.
I think it's important. It's something I've always stayed away from too. But it's kind of just like, why?
We kind of like try to toe the line and
keep it even keel.
Yeah, and like I said, people are people. I can understand. Yeah, it's not like that. But
and no, by discussing it, you're not picking a side.
No, but I do think it needs to be talked about openly, and people need to hear like our thoughts on it, because, unfortunately, we can't be open about this type of shit. You can't. It's sad that you're in a space in America, the republic, the freedom of speech, all of these things and these ideals that we're supposed to be backed by, and it's not a safe space to have free speech anymore.
I mean, and that's
for
changed.
Fear of your career being ruined, or people not fucking with you at work anymore. Or imagine a school teacher, or some guy in a plumbing. I mean, I've seen all types of crazy stories where something goes wrong and it kind of ruins somebody's life, but the story gets redacted, and then they're still left with that.
There's also so much of just like the mainstream media controlling so many things, and like you said, I mean, I think traditional values are very frowned upon nowadays,
which is sad, right?
Which is so sad. And I think it's kind of like,
there's things that are brought up in school. We have children, obviously. There's things that are like brought up in school that, like, I mean, let's be honest, this is like some shit that, going back to my childhood, that like even mentioning or sexualizing children in any way, or thinking that like they took sex out of school for a reason, right?
Right.
Because at some point it got to a point where people were like, yo, you don't need to be talking to my fucking kids about none of this shit.
Right.
And now we're at a point where it's like so gone the other way that you're like what world are we in that people think this is fucking okay?
Yeah.
And for you to have an opinion about how I feel about you talking to my children this way is even crazier, right?
Right.
Like, it's
my kid.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
You have to trust your values and stuff, and it's like hard to see. I seen the fighter from Khabib, the UFC fighter. And he was talking about like about us sending our children to school, right? And like at this point in America, you have parents, both of them worked, and like school is kind of like the babysitter, and people don't really have a choice. Otherwise, they don't have means to send kids to private school or anything else.
Absolutely.
And we don't even really know these people that we're dropping our kids off with.
No.
He said, you have great values and you're teaching your kid one thing, but you see your kids for like fucking 2 hours a day probably. You pick them up, you get them ready, you drop them off with somebody else. Then you pick them up and you take them home, and you guys spend what, 2-3 hours together tops before you go to bed and start over again. And then the weekends, they're spending the majority of their time, and
With
you just
these
have
people.
to trust that these people's values, their intentions, what they're bringing forth, we don't know what kind of day they're having. Not that people, I try to think that most people are instantly
Good.
but we don't really know, right?
This is why we're starting a pod.
I think even like when I was in school, which, wasn't that long ago, I graduated high school in 2015, but my high school experience was much different than what the schools are doing now. They're just indoctrination camps, basically, to say this is the one way you think this way or you're wrong. Do you want to think about this, or do you want to be this, or there's all these, it's not good. It's not good. Both of my sisters are homeschooled
Yeah,
for that reason.
Yeah.
And my parents are
in Louisiana.
blessed, yes, in Louisiana, because there was even like some bill or some hearing that was just had there because there was books in the library of showing children how to commit sexual acts on each other and on the same sex, and image. I saw it myself. I saw the hearing link, and it showed all the pages in the books, and I can't.
And they legislated to get this into the
It's
and
some
not into the
sick
curriculum,
shit.
but have it be accessible, right?
It's sick shit, and they call it it's inclusive. It's not inclusive. That
It used to be a crime, right?
yeah.
I showed a little kid.
Oh, bro, you're going to jail.
And it's like I understand the argument.
Growing up.
Some people feel like, okay, well, what if they come from a home where their parents don't talk to them about sex, or I understand that. So maybe, freshman year of high school or like 8th grade, you have a separate, like I had a sex ed class, or I had like where I, had sex education with just girls. And I want to say I was in 8th grade. And, they tell you this is what happens if you do this. This is how to take care of yourself. This is how to protect yourself. Obviously, you shouldn't do that until you're older and your brain can understand what you're doing. It's something for adults. It's to make a child. And this is the way it is, just purely educational. I can see the argument with that. But I also see the argument and let parents handle that on their own.
Why is that your place? This is not my child.
Like, this is something that kids shouldn't even be thinking about this.
No.
They should just be being kids.
If I see something that is worrisome, or I see behavior that is leading in a certain direction where we think that this conversation needs to be had for a certain reason, then that should be to his prerogative or their prerogative to talk to their child about.
Yeah. And
Or
it's
whoever in that space they want to share that
How
information.
do your sisters like being homeschooled?
they like it. It's been really since all the COVID stuff started happening. That's when they pulled them out. And they were actually in a private school. And they're pulled out now. And so my stepmom is a lawyer and she works from home because she works out of Houston anyways, remotely. And then my dad works from home 2 or 3 days a week, maybe 2. And so she just built an office with my stepmom has her big desk and then their desks with all of their equipment and stuff that they need to learn. And so they love it. They love it because they have so much more freedom for the extracurricular stuff that they do.
Get to wake up when they want to.
They wake up when they get to sleep, and it's just kind of like
not-
kids need
It's not
sleep.
much to like.
Dude, when you told me you gotta wake up at like 6 to get the kids ready for school and everything, I'm like, dude, I go to bed at 2. I'm up at 8:30, 9.
Yeah, so it's like they roll up. Some days it might be 8:30, some days it might be 10:30.
I did
But
home
they're-
studies in my like later years for high school and like the end of junior high. It was like I was on set all the time anyway, so it was easier that way. But yeah, you would just have the work and I would do it. To be honest, I could get through like most of that stuff in like like the stuff that they're doing, like once you like, you know, if you put the core values into them, they're like, kids are a lot brighter than we give them credit for.
They are.
It's actually easier for them to do than to follow along at the slow pace of 45 kids in a class, some that don't get it, some that don't want to get it. How much of it is just like a teacher being like, Johnny, shut up, and this person do this, and we got to give everybody their turn, and you're like, fuck, bro, I could have been done like hours ago, like.
Could have been back home sitting on the couch.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Or learning something else.
Yeah, so like one of my sisters, she's taking a coding class because she just has extra time. So she's learning how to code. She's 12.
That's actually like a practical tool at this point.
And then, you know, they also do, my 8-year-old sister, right now she's doing like a cooking class, which really just means she helps my dad with dinner twice a week. You know, so it's like they have the extra time, or like, you know, the days my dad's home, they'll make lunch together or something like that. Like there's time for them to go outside. They get to do like more dancing classes with other homeschool kids because they're homeschooled. I don't know if you know, but in the past, I don't remember if it was a year or just like a couple years, homeschooling has gone up 30%.
Yeah, which is great.
It's great, yeah.
I mean, at some point, I feel like they'll try to take that option away from us. At some point, that wasn't an option.
Yeah.
Like, it was a transition, even like, what was I born? I was born in 81. And so even in my younger career, it was like, there had to be a reason that you were allowed to do that in the first place. Either you were failing terribly and didn't insert into school properly, or there was a financial benefit reason why you had to go elsewhere and do something else. So they didn't allow you to do that. That wasn't really an option. I'm sure people fought for it. But I think as parents, we got to look at it as, this is our opportunity to actually make them and mold them into the little human beings that we want them to be. Because right now we're giving the power to a system that has a bad track record in success. For lack of a better word.
It's difficult. I mean, it's a difficult. And
when you multiply them together, it gets even. I mean, you know, try taking care of 2, 4 or 5-year-olds, but let alone
that are there
30
all
in a
day,
room, 15 in a room that are, you know, worried about other stuff. It's not the best setup for education, I don't think.
Yeah, and I feel like now too, you know, there's obviously still room and there's always room. I mean, teachers, I respect them so much. I feel like they don't get, you know, unless they're at the professor level or maybe a private school level, they're underpaid. And, you know, and I feel like so many of them now, they can't even, I'm sure they're touching lives, but they can't even really teach the way. There's so many, like it's like, you might as well just be taught by a robot. You know, I'm sure a lot of them feel that way. Like they can't say what they really think. They can't really mold, or they have to be so, it's kind of like
service industry is like, it doesn't matter. Nurses, fire, police, they're all damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
It's a thankless job that you can only do wrong. You know what I mean? Oh, thank you for saving in this sense, but fuck this guy tomorrow for whatever reason. And you're just as bad as him because of guilt by association, because you wear the same uniform or come from the same place. It's kind of a fucked up place to operate from. And it's not something that people are going to want to do. And let's be honest, if those people stop showing up to work, we're going to be fucked really quick, right? Like, this place can, you know, is basically, imagine all nurses just, fuck it, I don't want to be a nurse anymore. I'm tired of dealing with this shit. Like,
we'll be fucked.
Yeah, you don't want to end up in the hospital or the police. I mean, you see what happens when they don't want to go to a call. You know, you want to defund what was the thing where they were at the defund the police rally, but then they needed to call the police for something. It's kind of one of those things where you're like, yeah, obviously there's some systemic issues with all of these things. But are we approaching it the right way by saying that, like, these people are vilified in a certain sense? It's not necessarily productive way for society to be operating, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, because obviously there's people in all different types of positions. I mean, I see it in Hollywood, positions of power that abuse that power. There's always going to be people that do that. Right. And so, I mean, like, I'm sure there's police officers that are just, you know, those ones that are just typical douches. They're just on a power trip. Obviously, there's 100%. A percentage of cops that are like that. But it's kind of like,
you're not getting the A players, though.
Right, but it's like,
how many people want to sign up for that job right now?
Right. So it's like,
if you start paying dudes $500,000-$600,000 a year, then maybe you're going to get some sharp cats, some
Right.
cats that are a little bit better with their words and a little bit better with on their
Right.
feet, right?
But then you're also getting
Not getting
people
the
that
A players.
are doing it for the right reasons.
Well, they get corrupted
And
by the system in itself.
yeah,
It's
it's
that,
crazy.
and it's like
But
a weird thing.
defunding them, it's kind of like now, I mean, crime is just, I mean, going up. I mean, even New Orleans, like where I'm from.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm not from New Orleans, because
It's always been rough.
dangerous
It's
as
super
hell.
dangerous. It's always been one of the
now.
most dangerous places.
Yeah, but they're now, I think it's the murder capital of the country.
Yeah. That St. Louis and the Midwest area.
Because it's a small city. New Orleans is small, but the amount of murder per 100,000 people
it's
is
a lot.
completely high. But the other day I heard something like there used to be like 8,000 cops in New Orleans. There's now 700.
I mean, who wants to be a cop in that setting?
There was 8,000,
You
and
know?
now there's 700.
You
Funny
can
you say
get
that because I was just there last year for like 10 days. There wasn't that many cops around walking around.
Because there aren't any
Yeah.
now.
who
And
wants to do that
so,
job there?
there's
Oh, you get shot at.
the amount of shootings,
Yeah.
like
It's active,
and they
active.
don't go after. You don't even get arrested anymore.
No.
It's just. I mean, the drive home that I have to make from New Orleans airport, I don't do it at night because my dad was so freaked out because for this whole month, I think something like. I don't want to misquote it, but I think like 30 people died from this way, but they were basically just shooting at the highway and just shooting at random cars, and people were just dying. Just gangs. They were just shooting and killing people for no reason.
That's just fucked.
Yeah. So people, I love New Orleans. The culture is amazing. I love Louisiana. I love where I'm from. It's truly a beautiful, warm, unique, special place. But anybody visiting New Orleans that just is like, oh, I want to go to Bourbon Street and I want to have fun. It's like, dude, pick somewhere else or
Yeah.
go during the day and be careful and go with a group of people. It's not like a game. There was this girl I went to hair school with that got shot when she was 16, sneaking out and going to Bourbon Street, and some gang member pulled up to the side of her car and just held the gun and just shot her.
Fuck.
Dude, I was walking down Bourbon Street at like 9 o'clock at night with Madison on my shoulders.
Yeah, you're not very aware of your
Dangerous.
surroundings.
But a lot of
Do you not know?
people
Do you
don't.
not know the history of New Orleans?
I had my friend with me, but that was
A lot of people don't. They just think,
Yeah, they
oh,
don't.
it's so fun. It's like the pictures, but I'm not no one in my family likes to go there.
Yeah.
We don't go there. I recently went and did something there. I went to a Saints
Have
game.
you seen the crime statistic of Texas? The increase in crime after the flood, after Katrina.
No, but I mean, I know.
But I
it's
can
bad.
assume it.
It was because it flooded everything out of New Orleans and everything went to Texas. So like the increase in violent crime in Texas across the board was like, it's a statistic that you can see. So you can see how rough New Orleans is. And so kind of like dumping all of that into Texas, it was like a big deal. It was a story that was reported like over and over again because, not only do you have like the crime element in Texas and it being a border town, but then you coupled with that, it started a trend that was like in a very bad direction for a really long time. Yeah, it's a rough. It's always been a rough area.
It's crazy.
I
Yeah.
made it out okay.
Hey, no, there's beautiful things about it. I think if you're aware and you're going during the day and you're not going down dark alleys,
It's one of the most unique cultures in the world. Right?
so
There's
awesome.
nothing like it, like anywhere else.
The
in
kids'
world.
museum was
You have,
amazing.
you have like,
It's so incredible.
it was just a melting pot of like this whole Caribbean, French, Cajun lifestyle. There's like a thing, it's like nowhere else in the world. Like the architecture, everything about it is its own little place because of, hundreds and hundreds of years of the type of inhabitants coming from all over the place,
It's a very special place. I mean, the food is like
Food was amazing.
unreal.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
It
so
was just so hot and humid when we were there. It was middle of June.
it tends to get like that. But it's only for a part of the year, but the rest it's pretty okay. But I love where I'm from. I truly do. My dad's always saying, "Oh, I fucking hate this place." I'm like, "Dad, come on. Then how come you never left?"
Yeah, we all say that. I say that twice a week.
Yeah.
I'm here.
When my dad came to LA for the first time, which my dad doesn't like really get out much like that. And he came and stayed with me for a few days. And one of the things he said was like, dude, I recognize all this stuff from Grand Theft Auto. And so that was one thing. I thought that was funny. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I know this bridge. Oh yeah, I know that." And he said, "Do you not see this smog?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It's like
You can see
foggy."
it.
And I was like, "Really?" Because I didn't see it. And he's like, "Yeah, there's like
A layer.
a
It's a
layer."
Yeah, you can.
And I didn't really realize that before.
Yeah. It
When you
used to be
fly
a
back
lot worse
from
too.
when you fly back from Vegas and land in Burbank, you see it like
Yeah.
pretty well.
I
Yeah.
like to tell people that like there's certain places in the city, like if you're on the 2 and you can see downtown, it has a really good view of it coming down that way. And then like 110 from Pasadena and shit, when you get like a high up view, you can see like the energy trapped around the city. So
Weird.
people call it smog. I like to think of it as like just 10 million stories and energies and these things that all these people are putting out.
Yeah, I
Very,
mean, it's a lot going on, and it's
yeah.
a lot of like,
There's a lot of energy because people coming from all over the world to make it here, right? And it's
Yeah.
it kind of holds that like that energy field too.
yeah, and all the, I'm sure like pollution in a concentrated area and just all the hustle and bustle and how many people live here compared to most states
Yeah.
is insane. But going from Louisiana to here, I guess it should have been a bigger transition for me, but I think I was always maybe meant to live the city life a little bit.
Yeah. It's good. It's a beautiful place where anything can happen for you, you know? And then at the same time, you know, when you put 20 million people in the same area, you're gonna have a little bit of chaos that goes with it. So it's home.
Yeah, definitely. Y'all are both from here?
I am. You're from Texas?
I'm from here. I mean, I've been here since I was 6. I was from Dallas originally. And,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I never left. Traveled the country, traveled the world. Still home, but
And then you said your wife is from the South
yep,
area.
she's from Nashville.
Oh, nice. How did y'all meet?
Blind date. She moved out here when she was like 16, and then I met her when
He didn't meet her when she was
yeah, I met her
yeah.
at 28 or something.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Did you turn the counter off?
Yeah, 'cause-
We've been going for a while.
well, no, the buzzer was about to go off,
Ah, okay.
so I made him shut it down.
Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to plug, promote, talk about?
You know,
Leave the people with.
if you want to find me, my name's Abby Rao. ABBYRAO.
There you go.
That's it.
And if there's anything you want to leave the viewers, listeners, young females, young males with, anything, way of life, about content, words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. I wouldn't say I'm the knower of all things. I'm still learning. I think it's important to I'll be learning till I'm 95. But I think just staying true to yourself and understanding that family is the most important thing, and family doesn't always mean blood. And just keeping that at the forefront of your life and making sure that you're happy and you're happy with who you are and what you're putting out into the world and the decisions you're making. And there's nothing that you can't do, really, that unless you block yourself from doing it. A lot of times the only thing in your way is you. So don't be afraid to dream big.
That's it. Dream big. We like it.
Exactly.
All right. Well, like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate
you.
your time. We appreciate your honesty and being yourself.
Thank you for having me. This was a very great conversation.
Yeah.
Glad we were able to make it all happen.
All right.
Later, guys.